my second question, and I would want others to also share their views here, because financial services predominantly, if I may say, the biggest problem statement here is that data exists in silos. And there's also, if I may just say, that the accuracy of that data. And these are challenges that the industry is grappling with as we talk about digitization, and also the second pillar that we spoke about, which is creating data as a strategic asset. What, my question here to Avik, and I'll come back to others as well here, is that with AI coming in play and trying to solve for credit decision making, or creating digital infrastructures, distribution infrastructures, or whether it's customer acquisition, or it is driving persistency, all of these use cases of credit decision making, so and so forth, right? Where do you see, how do you see banks are trying to solve in financial services, and banks in particular is trying to solve for that issue, which is what I spoke about. What are your
So,
views on that?
yeah, I think we have to take a step back to understand this, right? Like banks are a financial services company, and the important word there is services, right? So the services company and manufacturing company, but unlike two manufacturing companies, you can't create comparative advantage through process chemistry. There is
Yeah.
no magic formula that okay, we mix A and B, and we are the first one to invent that, and we get a patent for 7 years, 10 years, I don't know how many years, and you can live on that. Services industry, you have to create comparative advantage through tech, data and data science and journeys, which is called business process reengineering in certain areas, right? So you, as a services company, first you have to focus on that. Why? Because those are the things that will give you the personalized bespoke pricing, offerings, superior customer experience, and that's when you can gain comparative advantage over another company, right? As a financial services company or as a bank. Now, take obviously about it, the journeys, yes. Then the data and data science, which is the other question, right? So the data in banks is like fragmented and in silos, right?
Yeah.
And the quality is also questionable given the way it was stored. It was a very old school of an Oracle and SQL kind of databases, and there's no process and even lack of talent to kind of ensure quality and everything. That all is changing. I think banks have understood that this is one area that we need to invest big time, right?
Yeah.
This data and data science, because ultimately that insight. I think Eric has a question. Eric, you want to ask
Eric
something?
has something to add. Yes.
Oh, you're on mute, Eric.
I'm just saying I'm happy to speak next. When you're done, I want to just cue Sakshi about that.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that investment on data, right? To get the data at a customer level, all the dimensions of the data to be there for the customer, which then can extract these insights and allow you to do certain actions, whether in terms of customer service, pricing, credit decisioning, and everything. The algos are actually easier part, right? I mean, data science sells more. The as popularly they say the sizzle sells more than the sausage. I think the data science have been selling more. Data engineers are least celebrated probably in this whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
But I think that's changing for the good of the bank, because people have started understanding the value of data engineering and the whole rigor around data and getting data centralized. That's the important piece, because if you can't centralize data, you can't really
Yeah.
federate and democratize it. For every
Exactly.
organization, for data and this AI based decisioning to be part of your DNA, you need to embed that, right? And you need to democratize data. You need to have ownership of data, not only by the data stewards but also for business, right? And
Yeah.
that, I think, is the future, and that's where the banks are moving.
Very interesting. Eric, please go ahead.
Yes, I want to just underscore, Avik makes a key point that data is siloed in banks and financial services more broadly, and that needs to change. AI and Gen AI is an incredibly powerful tool for fundamentally changing that. We're in the early stages of a real revolution. One of the things I'm
Yes.
most excited about with Infinite Analytics is the way it is able to connect the combination of third-party data with first-party data to understand better what's going on. In particular, with Gen AI, what we're able to do is take a lot of unstructured or formerly unstructured data and analyze it in ways that wasn't possible. Financial services have long been on the forefront of working with data. It's really the most data-driven, most IT-intensive industry. I've been studying this for 30 years. So it's been a leader for a long time, but it's depended on structured, usually numerical data, and that's been a big advantage that so much of the financial services industry is able to use relatively structured numerical data to draw insights and inferences from in a way that's harder in other industries. But now we're opening it up to a whole broader set of data, location data and data about the entire population that's in much more detail. By having tools that allow us to capture this kind of previously fuzzy, unstructured data and start adding that, it's probably 10xing the ability to do analytics. Infinite Analytics is a company that's very much on the forefront of doing that. And what we're seeing in financial services, I think, is the vanguard of what we'll be seeing in more and more industries going forward as this revolution comes on to apply much more broad third-party and previously unstructured data that continues to secure privacy, but also differentiates things to add value.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. And I think the precision of connecting to that device ID is very, very critical to hyper-personalize, as what Avik just shared, to personalize that solution and that service to every customer. That's the true democracy that we're talking in financial services currently.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I would just say that this ability to connect the third-party data, the first-party data, so you can understand your customers in depth. That's something that is really a game changer, and it wasn't possible before. But now, with the location data, the device IDs, et cetera, and then this, if for companies like Infinite Analytics that have access to the broader data, you start getting a head start on understanding your customers in a way that you couldn't just with local data.
Absolutely. Akash, you have something to add on to it. Thank you, Eric.
I just want to say a couple of things. I love, Avik, what you just said. One needs to centralize data to democratize it. I think that's an amazing statement, and I'm going to use that in a lot of places with your permission. The second thing is, I think when you talk about silos of data, and sorry, I don't mean to do a plug in here, but I think the whole premise of when Puru and I started this company and when we reached out to Eric as well was data exists in silos all over. How do we break down those silos and analyze that data and unleash the value of combined data sets versus silos of data? So I just wanted to tell you that I love that statement, and I'll hand it over back to Sakshi.
Well, absolutely. I think, the thing about, in Indian context, right, I'll tell that the banks, have enjoyed economic moat from the limited number of licenses that has been rolled out by the sector regulator, right? It has been we are blessed with a very strong and, diligent regulator. And that's why, the limited number of licenses, the due diligence before giving the licenses are very high, right? And hence, limited number of licenses were given out, and the banks enjoyed the, economic moat because of that. But however, now that they see that there's increased competition from fintechs and, different other like tech-based companies, digital first, digital only kind of, it's imperative now to invest in the data space to create that competitive advantage that we have been all looking for, right? Absolutely. That's what we're going to create the economic moat in the future.